Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So we're getting back to the swing of things, and we're going to be focusing on something this evening. Well, something that's going to get debuted tomorrow. Yep, the Hong Kong Bitcoin Spot ETF. Get excited, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have exactly the same sort of flavor. Maybe we'll pause just for a second. The US ETF market dwarfs the Asian ETF market. Now, the clear differences between the two is one's around 3.6 trillion, the other one's around 50 billion. So you can see there's not that much interest in the Asian ETF. But there are two differences between the US Bitcoin Spot ETF and the Asian or the Hong Kong Spot Bitcoin ETF that's going to make it more interesting for people to go and pick up the Hong Kong ETF. I'll be explaining that in this video. We're also going to dive into what's going on in the stock market and why tomorrow is going to be a very important day in regards to earnings. We're going to dive into where Amazon currently stands with regards to its release of its earnings. We've had so far some good news for Microsoft and for Google. Let's hope it's the same story for Amazon, given that it is one of the bigger market cap tech stocks that can really have an impression on the stock market. Speaking of which, we're going into the next 48 hours where investors are going to be anticipating what the Federal Reserve is going to be revealing about its monetary policy. Are they going to cut the rates or are they going to keep them on hold? Bets are that they are going to keep them on hold. They won't be increasing the interest rates, neither will they be cutting them. Apparently, they're going to be holding the interest rates. And that only means one thing. The US government is going to be raising those yields because they want people to buy US bonds. And if people don't think it's worth it, those yields will naturally keep on climbing up until investors can lock in a great yield on investing in US bonds. We're also going to dive into a little bit of price action going into this evening. Of course, the debut of the Hong Kong ETF is going to be happening later on this evening. So it will probably bring some volatility, but it all depends on if the liquidity is going to be there for it. By the time we're done with that, I think you should be pretty well informed. So let's have a conversation, ladies and gentlemen. So, according to Helen from Cointelegraph, she says there are 6 things that we need to know about this Hong Kong ETF story. We're just going to focus on one that is very important that could actually lead to a significant move in Bitcoin. It's all going to be about how much of the Bitcoin are they going to pick up, because that's what we don't know. Check this out. As we go down, I do need to correct myself. I had said previously that the entire ETF industry was around, in the US, was around $3 trillion. Well, it's 8.9 trillion. I must have read the 3,457 products, which equate to 8.9 trillion. So that's where I probably got my 3 from. But considering the Hong Kong ETF market is estimated to be around 50 billion, okay? But this is where it gets interesting. The way that the spot ETF can be purchased. So check this out. This is the distinctive feature that I believe is going to warrant maybe foreign investors, and I call people from the US as foreign, to start buying the Bitcoin ETF from Hong Kong. Stick with me on this one. So, unlike the US one, Hong Kong spot crypto ETFs will be in kind created, which means that when the ETF intermediary wants to make new ETF shares, they provide issuers with funds using actual cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. So that means there's going to be Bitcoin consumed. Physical Bitcoin needs to be purchased to get involved with this ETF. The US is different. The US has cash-created spot crypto ETFs. Authorized participants like JP Morgan, Bank of America, BlackRock, they're going to come with a big bag of cash and say, I'd like to buy some of this Bitcoin ETF, because they're not allowed to own or hold Bitcoin in principle, okay? So then the transfer agent or the intermediary that is acting on their behalf will then go and pick up the Bitcoin. But the Hong Kong ETF allows you to use the Bitcoin. So that means now we could effectively get a nice little run on the Chinese yen. Check this out. If we go over to the dollar right now, think about this. The dollar has appreciated by 5.2%. As you can see, it's trading at 105. If I go and have a look at the Chinese yen, I can then say to myself, with a strong dollar, I can pick up quite a bit of Chinese yen and use that to go and buy the Bitcoin. Come and have a look at the Chinese yen. Right now, the dollar against the yen, you can see that it's doing pretty well against it. Once the Hong Kong debut spot Bitcoin ETF comes into play, in my opinion, this thing's going to slump. Why? Because they're going to be using dollars to convert it into the yen. That means, in principle, the yen's going to go up in value. The dollar will be going down because they'll be using dollars to exchange into yen to go and buy the Bitcoin. But there's some other things that could be happening. You could have Chinese investors that already hold dollars. So they could now go and buy the Bitcoin with dollars. It all depends on the actual intermediary that's going to be handling this ETF story. So there are 3 spot Bitcoin ETF issuers, or the crypto ETF issuers. So that's China AMC, which is the China Asset Management. And then you've got 2 other ones, which are Becerra and Harvest. All right. So the China AMC, they are the biggest one. All right. Now, according to Wang, he says that the Hong Kong spot crypto ETFs are well suited to collect 1 billion in assets under management in 1 or 2 years in a bullish scenario. Why is that figure so small? Because they're not allowing mainland China investors to buy the Hong Kong Bitcoin ETF. That's a problem. We're already capped at what the potential could be. In other words, $1 billion market cap. Whales buy or transfer $1.3 billion worth of USDC into Coinbase with the intention of it, we assume, to go and buy Bitcoin or Ethereum. All right. So within 1 or 2 years, 1 billion. Quite frankly, it seems like they're just creating the ETF for the sake of creating it, which means that we still have to rely on these guys right here, BlackRock, Grayscale, ARK, all the top players right now who are buying the Bitcoin ETF from the US. We're starting to see that they're not actually buying it. The last 11 hours, we're not really seeing anything. VanEck, nothing. ARK, nothing. Bitwise, nothing. BlackRock, nothing. They're not really picking anything up. ARK actually picked up 84 Bitcoin for 5.3 million and sold it, sorry. So it seems like it's pretty quiet across the board. And the video that I did last week about BlackRock stopped buying Bitcoin, that story could be coming into fruition because of the bids and the asks. Now, we've seen a little bit of movement to the upside in Bitcoin today. We go over to the chart itself and we say, okay, how was Bitcoin fared today? Well, it hasn't really gone anywhere. I'm not too particularly fussed with Bitcoin's movement, but the Hong Kong debut could spark a little bit of a rally this evening. And what you really want to be looking forward for is the way Bitcoin behaves inside of this range. But you know that they've been selling the Bitcoin as price has been marking up. So we do have a problem with price being imbalanced in this zone. So be very careful. You don't want to be buying as it's rising. You want to be buying as it's pulling back, because when it pulls back, it means that people are buying it. Already you can see where the imbalance is on this candlestick. An imbalance means that price has aggressively moved up and taken out a number of orders, and it's acting as an imbalance in the market book, in the order book, should I say. So it's a fast order. You can see the green candle is not really appearing with much. And then as we go further up into the candlestick, you start seeing the orders coming into play. Okay, so it starts at 47.20. It's a very small amount right there. But that's represented by the green vector candle, as you can see right here. So we know there is an imbalance issue there. And historically, Bitcoin likes to recover the imbalances. So this is where we are with the stock market. So far, we don't have any distribution days. What's a distribution day? Well, it means there's been aggressive selling of more than 1%. So we haven't had that yet. But neither have we had accumulation days. And that's what we really want to see. The best way for us to understand where we are in terms of the stock market is to consider how many stocks finish up on the day on volume. Now, Friday, it did very well. 291 stocks finished up on volume and only 83 of them ended up lower. Now, what I like to do is I like to look at Bitcoin and Coinbase because they have similarities in the way that they actually trade. Now, you can see Coinbase is pulling back to around $221.26. It's down 6% for the day, but volume is down 38%. So even though it's pulling back, I'm not too concerned about it because the volume's not present. So it's just a little bit volatile. You then take that logic and go back into Bitcoin's price action, and you can see Bitcoin is up, but that's the daily chart on Coinbase right here. Okay, if we go over to the daily chart on Bitcoin right now, you can then see clear as day how Bitcoin is effectively copying the same behavior as Coinbase. Okay. Now, going over into Amazon, given that Amazon has a huge market cap and it's not a market cap you want to be dismissing, average daily volume around 38 million shares per day. And the market cap itself, it has lost the top spot of being over nearly $2 trillion. It was $3 trillion in one instance, but you can see now already that it's doing relatively well, okay? Given that it did spike low, it had a couple of bad weeks, and then it came and recovered that week back. But you can see that it's just not stopped going up, but volume has been consistent throughout this rally to the upside since March 2023. Now, what we got to be mindful of is when Amazon declares the earnings, we want to see acceleration. And you can see it's doing amazing. Look at it. 425% on the earnings. And then you've got sales of 11%. 236% on the earnings, sales 13%. And then earnings in a quarter of December 31st, 999% on earnings plus 14% on sales. So they are earning a lot of money, but their sales ain't really kicking it. So that's where their business edge is. It's on the earnings, on the revenues that they are creating from either subscriptions and what have you. Okay. So as we come to a close on the video, I just want to show you this trade that I just took on the S&P after I was highlighted that this red vector candle was screaming recovery, okay? This is what I mean about when I say the word intention. This red vector candle right here came into play on the S&P, and it just literally came in a few moments ago. When I saw that red vector candle, I could see on the depth of market that price had literally collapsed to the downside, and it was inside of this area here where I started to pay attention. Now, I took advantage of 3 trades on this. So I opened 3 trades on 3 different accounts, and it was a very, very quick scalp. We managed to clear $800, and it was in a matter of 5 minutes. And the reason why I took that trade was because of the following. So let me just show you. This is where we are with the statistics of the trade. So 3 trades on 3 accounts, 2 contracts, and we successfully managed to make the entry at 5,135. And that was the average between it. Yeah, so 5,135 and 5,136. Okay. And my exit in principle was 5,138 across all 3 positions. So that was 5,135.75. So my entry point was right here at the lows of the depth of market. And then we got out at 5,138.50, which was all the way up there. Naturally, it has continued to move up. But what is it that I did? I traded back into the logic of the red vector candle. So 5,000 over here, look, 5,135.50. That was my entry point right there. So I initially allowed price to wait for the recovery of the green vector. So that was where I was in a little bit of a drawdown, only by about 5-6 ticks. So that was okay. And then we saw the recovery back up to the red vector candle. I could have held on to the recovery of the full vector, but I don't know that's going to be the case. This is my style of trading. I'm fast in, fast out. It took 5 minutes for that move to actually happen. Let me just have a look again. So yeah, 5,000, so 1934 to 1941. Okay, so it didn't take that much time, 6 minutes or so, to realize the recovery of the vector candle. And that's what I look for with the hybrid system. When I see a red vector candle, I can gauge the idea of how likely they're going to recover it based on how fast they're moving from one point to the next. What does that red vector candle tell you? Well, it tells you that people have been trapped in short contracts. They've been selling. So sellers have been going short. Longs are getting liquidated at the same time and also going short at the same time because they feel like they're missing out. And then the market presents us with a green vector candle. And this green vector candle, because price had gone back into that zone, it was originally, see here, it's right here. It shows 333 contracts came in on the offer side. Okay, so someone had initially bought at this point, so aggressively bought 333 contracts. So that tells me that this could be the point where they start to offer price higher because there seems to be interest in people coming in to buy. Aggressive buyers are coming in because people are seeing that price is going down. Short sellers might actually be buying to cover because price is reversing against them, which is fueling a rally to the upside. And that is effectively the makeup of a vector candle, the way I trade it in terms of the hybrid system. So you made it this far, mad love and respect for passing through. Now listen, please put in the comment section if you actually think this Bitcoin spot ETF from Hong Kong is really going to bring volatility. I mean, if BlackRock and ARK and Valkyrie ain't been picking up any Bitcoin spot ETFs, what can we expect from the Hong Kong ones? Chuck in the comment section below and let me know what you guys think. Now listen, if you are new to the channel, make sure you do like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. We've got a very big live coming into play on Wednesday, which is the FOMC press conference. It's one of the channel's biggest lives where we get to listen in on good old Jerome Powell telling us if he's going to dump the market or not. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's flavor. I'll be checking in with you all back as usual, 2 p.m. UK time and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard for that New York live. Take care of yourselves, gang. Peace.